Hey folks, Mr. Justin here with Secret Weapon Miniatures. This video is being produced in cooperation with From the Warp and is part 3 in a series looking at brush selection, care, and usage. What I'm going to do is look at both natural and synthetic brushes, painting from the pot and from a palette. I have two models here that I'm going to be demonstrating on. One is a Space Marine from Games Workshop, sporting one of the Secret Weapon small Roman helmet crests. The other, also from Games Workshop, from their new Island of Blood set, is a Skaven Warlord. Now this guy has been painted entirely from the pot. And what I've got here is some of the Games Workshop Foundation gray, the Astronomicon gray. So in order to go straight from the pot, what I'm going to do is dip my brush in the water, dab some of it off here on my paper towel. Don't worry about it being dirty, that's just old paint. Doesn't have to be clean, just has to be able to soak up some of the extra water here. So in this case you can see I've tapped my brush into the side of the paint. It's not terribly saturated. Hold it over him so you can see. And there's still moisture in the brush. You can see how the moisture, how the color is traveling up the ferrule here, up the reservoir towards the ferrule. Dab off some of that extra moisture, and what it's going to let me do is come right in here paint the aquila on this guy's chest. Now after every couple of uses you can see how nice and thin that is. And after every couple of uses, I'm actually going to rinse out that brush completely, keep a little bit of moisture on it, come back to the paint. Drag it across the side of the lid there, and see how it's wicking up the paint instead of just simply saturating the tip. If I'm worried about a little too much moisture, just dab it off. Now what I'm trying to do as I come in on this side is paint with the body of the brush, not the tip, but use the side of the brush, the body of the brush to get in here and push that paint where I want it. It might take a couple of coats, it might not. In this case it looks like I got a little thin on this side compared to the other. So I'm just going to dab a little more paint on the end of the brush. And again, dragging with the body of the brush, you can really see, if I get in here, how I'm pressing more of the brush against this guy than just the tip. You can really see the body of the brush bend. And that's what I want to do, is pull paint out of the body, not just with the tip. But by dipping it into the water frequently, by keeping some moisture on the tip of my brush, dragging it across the side of the pot, you can definitely see very clearly how much wetter this paint is, and that means it's going to stay wet longer, give me more control, and mean I don't have to push as hard to get paint out of the brush in order to get it onto the model. By pulling along with the side of the body and not just using the tip of the brush, same thing applies. I'm drawing more of the moisture out of the body, more of the moisture from the brush, and I'll actually have more control. And as you can see, this is a number 2 brush. I'm getting in here, I'm painting a small space on this guy. You can see I've got good control, I'm getting good coverage, and not having a lot of problems. I do have a 3-chamber water pot here, a cleaning pot for my brushes. It's one of the things I do recommend, but it's certainly not required. It's another one of those tips that can prolong the life of a brush. Before I start using my Raphael natural brush, I've gone ahead, I've gotten it wet again, just by rinsing off in the 3 chambers. On my palette here I have some dark flesh, which has already been thinned. I double check that, make sure it's nice and thin. Same thing applies. In this case I'm going to get about half of the brush wet, and then dab off that excess moisture on my paper towel. And again, this is a number 1 brush. I'm painting the little piece of armor here on the side of his helmet. I'm going to start at the top, using the side of the brush, slide down towards the tip. You can see I'm using the body of the brush, not the tip of the brush. Blow on it to help it dry a bit. So again, I'm using the body of the brush, not the tip. Even as I come to the tip of his little armor piece here, trying to use the body, and you can see it's pulling the moisture from the body of the brush right on down to the tip of his armor there. Now obviously with paints this thin, when you're doing blending work like this, it's going to take me probably half a dozen coats to get the color I want. But by keeping my brush moist, by keeping the paint moist, whether I'm coming straight from a bottle or out of a palette, keep your brush clean, keep your paints a little thinner, it's going to drastically extend the life of your brush. Again, whether you're coming straight from a pot or out of a palette. Any questions? Drop an email to misterjustin@secretweaponminiatures.com, and again be sure to check the description for this video so you can get links to the From the Warp articles on brush selection and brush care. Thanks a bunch for watching.